Wine is a mocker, beer is a brawler, and whoever staggers because of them is not wise. Proverbs 21.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Nice.
So you're continuing to do damage to your body.
Daily.
Are your legs just sore, or did you pull something?
I don't think I pulled anything. I definitely strained my hip flexors on both legs. So it's not sore, and I didn't pull anything, so it's not like serious pain. They're just strained. Something that probably stretching would have helped me avoid, but you know.
Isn't that what the water's for?
I didn't stretch in high school, so therefore why should I stretch now? Yeah, so, and it's probably actually how I hurt myself was probably from, and how I strained him is me jumping. I mean, it's not jumping, but me pushing off the wall again and again and again for swim sets. It's like causing that lengthening of that repetitive motion that just my legs haven't had to do in a very, very long time. So yeah, they're not happy with me currently, but that's okay. I'm making it through. It's not like like I said, it's not like I'm in serious pain or anything. My legs just feel strained and I can't like getting up is kind of like out of a chair is kind of like a chore. Like I have to work on my weight placement instead of just standing right up. Yeah. And then my arm is still messed up from whatever I did to it on Friday last week. So I popped something, popped back. It's not like I'm in pain, but when I go to water polo practice, I can't like shoot the ball or throw very well. The boys are calling me Finding Nemo. I'm just a little gimpy arm over here. I'm able to swim and do everything just fine. It's just throwing and shooting. Like, all of my shots have been lobs this last week because like I can just, and then all of my passes are basically with my wrist. So it's been fun. But other than that, it's been good hanging out in the water, working out. Today was a really good day to where I felt like the rewards of it was we did a 4-on-5 drill and I had the boys constantly rotating. And so like I was on defense or I was on offense for rotating. And I never used any of my time to really like set up like, or, you know, try to score or something. I used it as coaching with that kid that's now playing on me, where it's like, okay, so I'll show him, I'll be like, okay, so here, this is how I want you to set up defense. Notice where my hips are. Notice how I'm playing this or how I'm cheating this side. Like, this is what this allows for you to do or whatever. Or when I'm on offense, I had a kid who was like set up kind of weird on me on defense. And I was like, hey, if you set up that way, notice what I'm able to do. Like I'm able to swim this way and you don't want me to have that open water. So move here and like put your hand on my shoulder here.
Don't you guys have a kiddie pool side of your pool?
Yeah, we do.
Why don't you just do it standing up?
I mean, we could, but also they could also learn to use their legs.
Well, I guess I just thought if you're trying to show.
Well, the hard part is
placement. I wouldn't be able to coach without being in the water. I mean, for football, it's fundamental to actually just like sit there and show a kid like your first step's got to be this, and then your first arm motion's got to be like you got to walk them through. You can't just describe it. So I mean, I imagine.
Well, like, and we do demonstrations on the deck. The hard part is the hard. So there's multiple difficulties to coaching water polo that like maybe not a lot of people think about. One is that you're dealing with multiple planes.
Yeah.
So going vertical and horizontal is like you're dealing with, you know, this shift. So it's almost kind of like flying, like where it's like, okay, you're dealing with multiple layers or levels to which you're able to be. And so trying to describe that while being on land is very difficult. But the hard part, so like I can't demonstrate my hips being up and my proper hip placement on land because there's nothing to float my hips up. The next hardest part is visual. If I get in the water and I try to show something to everybody there, they can't see everything because there's the water makes it to where you can't see what my body is doing.
Yeah.
And so everybody needs to get out of the water to see down visually to see what is going on. So there's a lot, or you have one-on-one time where it's like, okay, this is what I'm working on one-on-one with you, and I can show you and I can prod you. I can prod and poke you and be like, hey, this is how you need to be. You need to get your hips up here. You need to do this, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. And so today was really great. Again, during a scrimmage or something, I'm not necessarily needed. I hope my boys are able to see, like today, when we were doing our 4-on-5 and I was on offense and I was past the ball, I worked a lot more on my communication and directing boys on where to go on an offensive set. And so I hope that they learn from that, because that's something that we lack, is just there isn't really somebody you don't have a quarterback that's just like calling out where people need to go, calling for drives, asking for shifts, having people change out. And so just that little snippet today, just with me in control, made it to where we were moving. Like our whole team was moving and changing and shifting. And I was like, this is the power of communication. Like, I was like, any of you can do what I just did. I didn't really do much, but I'm sitting there and I'm telling you what you need to do. And you all, and like my varsity players, you know what you're doing. So call for that stuff to happen, you know? I don't know. So, but it was good. Just finding Nemo is not scoring any goals. That's all it is. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I'm still exhausted
John
every day.
Stockton of water polo.
Yeah. I'm exhausted every day. It's my 7th day back in the water, so we're doing good. How are you? How's your remodeling of your house going? The next time we're going to record, it's going to be a little bit more echoey in here, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. I might have to get like a psychedelic rug or something.
Yeah, there we go.
Make this place look like the set of a Black Crowes concert. We finally kicked it into high gear today. They did the living areas, put it down new floors, and I think tomorrow they're going to do the east wing of the house where all the spare bedrooms in the den are, because my office is a shit show and there's no way I'm getting this ready by tomorrow. They're very good at just playing musical chairs. And luckily it's not tile, so you don't have to wait for it to cure. Well, not even tile, but any kind of flooring that you got to glue down to where you got to let it sit before you put any weight on it. It's just floating flooring. So they finish an area and they move a bunch of furniture over what they just finished, and then they move on to the next part of the room. So Nolan actually came over this morning and helped me take apart the sectional, and then they put it back together this afternoon. I was like, they left and I went in there and noticed they'd put it back together. Like, they didn't have to do that. So that was nice. So we'll get more flooring in tomorrow and Thursday. He's got Friday off for some reason. He's Mexican. He's probably going to go down to LA and riot or something. I'm kidding. I don't think he gives a damn. In fact, I know he doesn't. Bad joke. And then we should have our appliances on Thursday. They're coming in as well. So
nice.
Lowe's will be delivering those. He's going to take care of the in-counter range and oven. I could probably do it, but he'll do it in a third of the time. I will put in the dishwasher and, oh yes, the very difficult refrigerator. But yeah, it'll be nice. We'll have a fully functioning kitchen for the first time in, well, counting when the oven broke, it'll be the first time we've had a fully functioning kitchen. Well, actually, counting the dishwasher not working, it'll be the first fully functioning kitchen since COVID.
Dang.
Dishwasher went out around COVID. I troubleshooted, and it was the control panel, and it was tail end of COVID. It wasn't in the like middle of 2020. Was it 2020? Yeah. It was towards the tail end, but it was right when supply chain issues were a big deal. And so to get the control panel for the GE dishwasher was according to GE, and I called a bunch of other places, and they were like, "You got to get it from GE." So I called GE, and they're like, "Well, it's going to be about $275, and we can't guarantee delivery time." And I was like, "I'm not paying $275 for what appears to be a control panel issue, and I'm just going to get another dishwasher." So
Yeah.
we gave it to a local guy who resells used appliances, so he can tinker with it and get it back and going and sell
Nice.
it for $300 or something, I'm sure. But it was perfectly functional dishwasher until it stopped working. So, and then we'll have an ice maker for the first time in a long time, and a freezer inside the house, not just out in the garage, and then an oven that works. So it'll be nice. It'll all be ready for Sunday, when I'm sure we'll have some people over to watch NASCAR in Mexico City. So that's good. We're getting ready to start our work on our new website. That's interesting. I got kind of a spec on how things are going to move forward, and so they've kind of lit a fire under me to say, "Hey, we need to know what all the new functions are. What do you want to keep? What do you want to change? What do you want new?" So I need to work on that. And then right now, there's a lot of soccer going on in the States, and it's all a shit show. The people who run international soccer in the United States are absolute fucking morons. I don't care if they hear me. You're a fucking idiot. It's run if Oceania and Eurasia and the other country from 1984 got together and decided to run a soccer federation, that would be how it was run. It is so ridiculously stupid. Both the Club World Cup and the CONCACAF that are about to start are an absolute disaster. They're charging media, and I mean everybody, even the big guys. Usually, a lot of times we get left out of media parking, but we have to kind of make do. They're charging media anywhere between $175 and $350 a match for parking.
What?
It's like, do you want us to cover your shitty Club World Cup or not? Where I even told our photographers that, just so you know, it's probably going to be the B team that shows up, because I don't want them not showing up, because this is kind of a dry run for us to get credentials for the main show next year. Yeah. So even if the B team shows up, we need to be there covering, Chelsea's B team. So it's stupid. And then CONCACAF's always a disaster. I mean, people forget the Obama administration. I think they got to where they filed charges, or they sent it to a grand jury going after CONCACAF as a money laundering bribery scheme. And I remember when the charges came out, I was like, yeah, 100%. Soccer in the United States is a scam.
Yep.
It's all incestuous. It's dirty. It's dirty, and it shouldn't be that way. And we deserve better, but it is what it is. So, fortunately for me, the way they run the credentialing system, the photographers have to log in and do their own credentialing. So I'm just seeing all these angry Slack communications in our Slack channel, like, what the hell is this? I know, like the first match was going to be in Miami. They approved, we've got like 16 guys looking to shoot. They approved all of our photographers, 16 people, to shoot this first match in Miami. And mind you, only 2 of them, the ones in Miami, applied for that match. But they went ahead, and so I'm getting emails from like my guys in Atlanta and Minnesota and New York, all saying, you've been approved for so-and-so and so-and-so. And Miami is like, what the hell is this? So it's fun times. And we got Stanley Cup going on.
Yeah, I think the Panthers are now, they're in their groove.
Interesting story there. So the first game that Edmonton won game 1 or 2?
They won game 1.
When they won game 1, we had a photographer shooting on the ice level in the corner. What's his name scores, skates right at him. Just right at him. It's dead center. He's skating at an angle because he's digging from doing a 90-degree turn from scoring, hands up in the air, looking right at the camera. Then he turns and he starts skating down ice and keeps celebrating. Well, somebody else got that photo, and that got used in a lot of the newspapers. And in the background, you can see my guy who did get the moment, but he went from getting the moment, and then once the guy turned his back to him, started celebrating like he's a fan, which is a no-no in my business. You were supposed to be there. Doesn't matter if you've lived in Edmonton your entire life. You cover Edmonton on a regular basis. Even the team photographer is not supposed to be like, yeah, we won. It's just supposed to be like, look at your pictures, do your thing,
Yep.
which I waver back and forth on. I mean, come on. It's sports. It's Edmonton. They've been trying to win forever. So I had to kind of tell the guy, like, look, it's not the end of the world. People are making a big deal about this just because everyone loves to hate and make a big deal about something so they can try to get you kicked out. But just do the inside, do an internal in your mind scream the next time, but don't show it. But
That's awesome.
I got like 6 pictures from friends in the business that I've worked with, and they've all circled him doing this, like with his camera in his hand. And I'm like, okay, well, he did get the photo. It wasn't like, at first when I saw it, I was like, you asshole, that was a big moment. And then I looked and no, he got the moment. He just, once the guy had left, I don't need the guy with, well, I guess that still would have been a nice photo with his back. If you'd shot it wide with the fans. See, yeah, he did kind of screw up. That would have been a nice photo. Anyway, whatever. So, good times.
Yeah. If you haven't watched, McDavid and Draisaitl worked some serious magic in that first game. Did you see the one where he crossed up 2 guys and then crossed it across ice to Draisaitl, and even Draisaitl was like, how the fuck did you do that? It was crazy. Yeah, McDavid's something else. The dude just incredible puck movement, incredible skater, just all around phenomenal player. But then, last night, they had a really good, tough game 2. But here's the thing about game 1. Game 1 was Edmonton had the third period of their life.
Yeah.
That was a fucking clinic. If they played the rest of this, nobody would have a chance if they played the way that they played in that third period. I just don't think that that's sustainable for them and their style of play.
I don't think it's sustainable for anybody. Florida just doesn't let you got to just be on your A game and not make any mistakes.
Yeah, and Florida and that was last night. Edmonton decided at some point early on in the first period that they were going to go and play physical against Florida. And that's not their game, and if anything, you're just leaning into Florida.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with somebody about it, and I was like, it's really actually kind of a telling that it's Edmonton versus Florida, and it is kind of the United States versus Canada, because both of them are playing their styles. The United States and Florida are very physical. They want to play you up against the boards. They want a full press in the offensive zone, and so it's very suffocating down there. And then Edmonton is a lot of finesse. They got a lot of speed, and they really don't like to play that physical. But for whatever reason, they decided to lean into that yesterday, and they got fucking railed. It was 5-1 was the final score, and they were lucky to score 1. Yeah, it was crazy. So if they continue to play like that, they're done. They can't play Florida physical. They have to let their finesse do the talking for them. They need to let Florida keep making misses on their hits, exhaust them out that way to where they don't feel like they're connecting. Because there's something about, I don't play the sport, but there's something I know that is in there that if you miss hits, that's going to start messing with you psychologically. If you're able to keep getting them to miss their hits, or they're not hitting square on you or whatever. But literally, I watched so many Edmonton guys get laid out in center ice yesterday. It was like, buddy, I don't know what you guys are doing. And then it ended with a 5-man brawl last night, or a 10-man brawl. Everybody on the ice got in a fight. And what's his name on ESPN? What's the kicker from the Colts?
Oh,
I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Anyways, he did one on it's not Pat, is it? No.
yeah, Pat McAfee. There you go.
There we go. He talked about it today, and he's like, this is the greatest sport of all time. There's only 3 refs. and there's a 5-on-5 brawl. So that means that they are each trying to grapple three sets of guys, but two guys are still having a slugging match. And so once they get them separated, they go and try and get the others separated. And so those other groups of guys are like, we're not done yet. And so they go in there and start fighting some more. He's like, what are you supposed to do about that? Yeah. So it's an interesting game. And we'll see how it goes tomorrow night. Florida leads 2-1, and it's back in Florida's house.
They're not really the same, but Florida reminds me of the Devils from the late 90s when they ran this thing called the neutral zone trap, which everybody but a Devils fan, and I like the Devils. Once the Red Wings kind of started fading, there was guys on that Devils team that I really like, so I enjoyed watching them. But people like NHL hated them because it was just this stifling, very complicated but stifling system if you knew what to do. And Jacques Lemaire, the coach, knew how to run it. And then they had arguably the best goalie in the league at the time, and one of the best goalies of all time, in Martin Brodeur. So they were physical. They weren't physical in the way Florida is, but I'm reminded just because that to me seems like the last team that really knew who they were and what they were about. Well, Florida's the first team since then that I can think of that really knows who they are, what they're about. They have a lot of really good players, and it's not a system per se, but he's got them buying into a very specific type of style of play. They play that way. Sure.
Yeah, they definitely have a style.
Then they stick to it, and they don't do what Edmonton and these other teams do. And I understand why. If you're like, what we're doing isn't working, we got to try something else. But you're better off just trying to win the way you win. The way you win, and if they beat you, just like, we just got beat by a better team. But
and I think that there's people that they would lose to, like. That's the hard part kind of when it comes to playoffs, right? Where it's like, all right, I definitely feel like the Avalanche could knock the Panthers out, but that's just not how it went through the system. So Edmonton probably could beat, I don't know how many teams there are in the NHL off the top of my head, but let's say there's 28 teams.
I think it's 28.
They could probably beat 26 of the 28 in a 7-game series, but the two teams that they can't beat in a 7-game series, in my opinion, I don't think they could beat the Panthers in a 7-game series. It's their kryptonite. I remember barely starting watching hockey this year, and everybody talked about the fact that if you want to beat Edmonton, you got to play them physical.
Yeah.
And there's no bigger physical team in the fucking league than Florida.
Yeah.
I was like, go and hit them. And that's what they're doing. And what's hard is Edmonton, like I said last night, they tried to play physical back, and that's not how they're going to win. Like, that's not it. So they got to let Draisaitl, Eugene Hopkins, and fucking Bouchard and McDavid literally run the show. They need those 4 guys to get down there and do what they do. But it's not hitting. So, and even one of the leading guys for Florida, he's not really known as like a hitter guy, but he's taken on the mantra of the Florida Panthers team. So Bennett has become this guy who now takes heavy hits on guys, but he's a Canadian that plays the finesse game for the Canada national team. But when he's down in Florida, he hits.
Yeah.
And they're all ready to hit. So I don't know. It's been a good series. I highly recommend. If you've been listening to Go to Hell podcast this whole time and you haven't started watching hockey with us, you should definitely do so. It's been a lot of fun. So, all right.
Hope it goes to 6, at least.
Yeah, I think it could go to 6.
All right, beer number 1.
Beer number 1. We are drinking the Scream Citra Scream. It says IPA. It's an IPA, but it's definitely a hazy IPA. I can't, like, if I were to stick my finger in there and put it up against the glass, I don't even think I could see it.
Look, I really like Fieldwork. They've become one of my go-to. Well, not go-to. They're on a list of if I see them at the store, that's good.
Yeah, you know that it's a good beer.
That said, the IPAs are just not their strong suit. They're much better at the like Pilsners and I mean this one's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Here's my issue with them. What they make well. It's a tasty beer. But we've had this before. I don't remember what one it was, but we've had an Orange Julius beer from them that said it was an IPA before.
Yeah.
So, and I looked it up, but this is not one that we've had before. We've had like, I don't know, 6 or 7 Fieldworks in the last 6 or 7 months. We went on quite a run there because I was buying stuff every week from them. We've had this same literal Orange Julius type IPA at least once before. It's fine. That's what they like making. It's good. But
now he does say Orange Julius, and I do want to clarify if you're going to go out and buy this can. It's definitely not as creamy as some of those other orange
no
Julius ones. Like it's not like
it's got a level of bitterness to it.
Yeah, what's the liquid gravity one? That like it's not like that.
Oh yeah, it's not the liquid dream machine.
Yeah, whatever that one is, and it's not the Fall of Troy or whatever from Belching Beaver.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't take like
it looks like an Orange Julius,
but it does look like an Orange Julius.
It looks like an Orange Julius. Otherwise, it's a bitter, lush IPA. Yes, this is more East. This is like what I would call an East Coast or a hazy. When we were first getting hazies on the West Coast, and it would be like a hazy or this is a New England style pale ale.
This is good. This is kind of what I remember New England style IPAs tasting like when they first came on the market. Yeah. It wasn't so much that juice kind of stuff. But it did look like juice.
Yeah.
Like I remember getting one and I was like, I remember the first time I had one. It was when I was 22 years old and me and Nolan were at some place in fucking Sacramento. We were going on the Pliny trip the next day. That was the first time we ever went. And I order a beer and it comes out and I was like, we both look at each other and I was like, we stopped our waitress, which happened to be one of Nolan's friends from college. And I was like, hey, is this orange juice? And she's like, no, it's your beer. And I was like, okay.
At least it wasn't green.
Yeah. But it was good. And that's when I enjoyed them back then. I was like, oh man, this is pretty good.
Oh, Tayo Segovia made one year. It was they had Star Wars all over it. I don't remember the name of it. And I remember being like, I hope you guys are small enough to stay off the Disney radar because this is a complete copyright violation. But it was like this, a little more bitter though. And it's still one of the best beers I've ever had. It was fantastic.
It's good. I think that the hazies have the opportunity or the ability to be really good. A lot of it is just it's very juice forward nowadays.
I just wish they would make, it's been a while since we've had a Fieldwork IPA. I just remember, it seems to me a lot of them are like this, and there's not really, I don't remember a very clear West Coast style IPA, but I might be wrong. I might be missing one or two, but Nolan brought over a lager last week, and it's very, very good. It's a little bitter. It's good. It's not as sweet as a lot of other lagers. All right, well, that's beer of the week number 1. I have kind of a music of the week.
How do you?
Topic.
Oh, topic for music of the week.
Well, it's kind of a topic.
It's
not really a topic. I mean, I'm not asking for input, but
I also have a trivia TikTok trend with Tim.
Okay, well,
also that's what we're switching to now. We're adding an extra T so that way we don't end up in guessing games anymore. We have a trivia TikTok trend with Tim. So there you go.
I watched Netflix has a Led Zeppelin documentary.
Okay.
I reckon if you like Led Zeppelin or if you like hard rock, but if you like Zeppelin, you have to watch this documentary. It is spectacular.
You mean if you like metal, according to whatever that
if you
whatever
like
that
metal,
game was that was
Spotify.
That Spotify Sportle or whatever.
I've listened to Zeppelin's one of my favorite bands. You catch me on a particular day, I'll say they're the greatest band of all time.
It's when he's not listening to the Rolling Stones.
No, they're better than the Rolling Stones. The fact that I'm going to get to something in a minute. But I haven't really spent a lot of time in my life like reading up on Zeppelin. Like I know a few things about Zeppelin. Like I heard the story about, well, I heard one part of the story about how they came about their name, but I don't really know a lot about Robert Plant and John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page and John Bonham and how they got together as a band and all that kind of stuff. And so this documentary pretty much goes from their childhood to Led Zeppelin 2, and then it stops there. And a lot of it, probably two-thirds to three-quarters of it is them before they got together, and then the period between signing a record deal, doing Led Zeppelin 1, cutting Led Zeppelin 2, and by then they're this huge band. So there's all kinds of stuff. Look, if you're really interested in watching this, you can turn it off right now or fast forward a couple minutes, because I'm going to drop a bunch of spoilers, because I just have to share it. There's so many nuggets in this thing that are so cool. So one, Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones played as studio musicians for a couple years before they got into rock and roll.
Nice.
They played together on the Goldfinger theme. Goldfinger. They're both on there. Jimmy Page played sessions with the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, Donovan, and he played on the Who's first album. Wow. John Paul Jones on bass played for the Hermits, Donovan, and wrote all kinds of arrangements for a myriad of rock and, like, where they would go in and he talks about how he would get a message that says, you need to write all the bass arrangements and then come in and record for this musician tomorrow. And then Jimmy decides he's had enough of this. Rock and roll's starting to pick up. He's kind of bored with it. So he wants to go out into the world and get into rock and roll. He's friends with Jeff Beck already. So Jeff Beck says, hey, join me in the Yardbirds.
Nice.
So then he's in the Yardbirds.
Right. Which we did know.
Jimmy wrote Dazed and Confused first for the Yardbirds and recorded it with the Yardbirds. I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
Beck then left the band soon after he joined, like right in the middle of a tour. Page continued. He then took over the head of the Yardbirds and continued it to the point where when Zeppelin, the four people we know as Zeppelin, formed, they were the Yardbirds for like a couple months. They actually toured in Scandinavia and did a couple shows as the Yardbirds. Didn't know that. So he wanted to everybody in the Yardbirds quit. He wanted to redo the band. His manager suggested Robert Plant. Went and saw Robert perform with another band he was with, invited him over to his house. And Page said, I've written a version of Joan Baez's Babe, I'm Going to Leave You, and I'd like to see if you can sing it for me. I did not know Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You was a Joan Baez cover.
That's funny.
What else? So Jimmy knew Bonham they'd been childhood friends. So it was Page when Page said, I'm going to go look for a drummer, Robert Plant said, no, don't go look at this guy. I already have a drummer. My friend is playing drums. And then they went and saw John Bonham, and Page was like, yep, that's the guy. And then John Paul Jones's wife heard that Page was forming a band and said, according to John Paul Jones, just kept bugging her, call Jimmy, tell him you'd like to be his bassist. So
nice.
So they recorded the first album on their own, self-funded, because Jimmy, while he was doing studio work, session work, started on days off or when he was bored, he would go in and work with the engineer. So he learned how to engineer, basically. He self-taught himself how to engineer. So he produced every single Zeppelin album.
Nice.
So they don't say who self-funded it. I think clearly Jimmy did, because he probably made a lot of money from the session work.
Yeah.
He paid for, well, it was self-funded, completely cut, ready to go, got on an airplane with their manager, went to Atlantic Records and said, here's an album. If you want it, you can sign us. You do not get to touch it or anything else we ever do. We record exactly what we want to do. And guess what? We don't do singles.
Nice.
They got the deal signed. Then somebody said, yeah, you can't be the Yardbirds anymore. I think it was like legal reasons. It was Keith Moon, the drummer for The Who suggested Led Zeppelin.
Oh, nice.
And then their first gig in the UK is at a place called Middle Earth. And one of the great things about this show, this documentary, is I would say like there's 6 different completely live they just show a completely from beginning to end live performance of a song. Video's been redone, like everything's been scrubbed, and it sounds fantastic.
Nice.
And so they pushed at this Middle Earth show. It's a bunch of kids and like looks like middle class people who like were showing up at the Newport Jazz Festival or something, and they're doing communication breakdown, and they keep showing people in the stands plugging their ears because they're too loud. Oh, and then another nugget. I don't know how I didn't know this all my life. This was, so they started 67. Apparently in the late 60s, I knew AM radio was still a big thing. And then, that's where you would hear singles and stuff like that. I did not know that FM radio at that time was playing entire albums. And so they got popular in the States because they were popular in the States for a year before they got popular in the UK. And FM stations were playing the front side of an album, doing a commercial break, and then playing the second side of it. And then kids were hearing it on their FM radios if they had one, and then word of mouth, and they just kept selling out these shows and becoming this huge deal. So there's a great little bit where this had to have been AM because I don't think he was on FM, but there's a bit where they're on the radio with Wolfman Jack, the famous oldies DJ, and it's all Wolfman Jack, hey. So anyway, it's fantastic. Like I said, there's a lot of live performances in it. The music's been redone. Oh, and another cool element is obviously the John Paul Jones, Robert Plant, and Jimmy Page are still alive. John Bonham died a long time ago. So they're interviewed throughout this thing. But whoever directed and produced this thing found a heretofore not heard interview of Bonham. And there are moments where they are playing his answers to questions for the first time to the members of the band. And they're getting these like whimsical and reminiscent looks on their faces and smiling. And it's just awesome.
That's cool.
And then there's footage that they've never seen before. And they'll do like a kind of like breaking the fourth wall thing and do a shot of the producer showing him. Oh, there's a concert at the Bath Outdoor Music Festival in the UK. And one of them was like, I didn't know there was even footage of us at this thing. And I think it was Robert Plant just sitting there watching it like, I can't believe this. So it's awesome. Very cool. It's very well done. It's a tidy hour and a half. There's no narration. It's just these guys being interviewed and telling their story and going back and forth. And so, it is a band-produced piece of propaganda, but they're telling stuff that I'd never heard before. And Robert Plant is very self-effacing. He's earned a reputation as being one of the most bombastic frontmen in music for a reason, but he is very much does not show his ego in this at all. You can tell he knows that he was surrounded by 3 musical giants and was just happy to be along for the ride. Oh, and he gives a little nice bit explaining, the song that's got Tolkien in it. And in the darkest depths of Mordor. Anyway, he talks about that, where that comes from, what the meaning of it is, why he talked a lot about castles and Middle Earth and Tolkien as a kid, because apparently his parents were really into that.
As all parents should be.
So anyway, that's my music of the week, so to speak. I got me in the mood today to listen to a bunch of Led Zeppelin live, which you can find on any of the music services. Their BBC live, their BBC sessions is all live. Oh, and the band pretty much recorded live. That was another nugget that came out. Like the music, the three musicians always played together when they were recording because they wanted it to sound like it would when they played live.
Right.
And if you hear them live, a lot of times you can only tell because the recording's not great, or just because Robert Plant like does the lyrics different. But otherwise, you're like, is this live? Oh, this is live. I thought this was the studio version. So
Yeah.
anyway, so go watch it. Led Zeppelin. I don't know the name of the thing, but you'll find it. It's probably pop up, search it on Netflix. It's wonderful. So any music for you?
Music for me, big fan of, actually, this is going to be kind of funny because nobody really sees him in this light. And it's actually, he's leading up to my music of the week. So nowadays, Kanye West gets a really bad rap. And that's very much self-induced, but
Yeah.
and I'm actually not trying to spend this time talking about Kanye, but I do need to recognize what Kanye did back when he released his first album, was that he changed hip-hop. Hip-hop became something completely different after Kanye West. And his albums that he continued to put out after that time, and music since then has changed. I was like, the reverberations of Kanye's albums have actually changed the rest of music. But one of the things that he did in his original albums, and that he still continued to do and still does to this day, is he brings in a lot of church music into his albums. His first album had Fly Away as one of the interludes. So, the gospel hymn Fly Away was in there, and he and for anybody who doesn't know what Kanye did, so when it comes to hip hop previously, people had sampled how it used to work was that you would sample old funk tracks.
Yeah.
And you would play the funk track over, and that's where the beat comes from. That's the drums, that's the whole thing. So that's coming in. Kanye comes in and he's taking like fucking Ella Fitzgerald vocals, speeding them up, dropping them down, whatever, and then creating and then replaying some like kick drum that's playing in the background to then create the beat and also the backup vocals for this song that he's playing. So he does this and everybody's like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? So he creates this whole thing, and he does it a lot with a lot of church music too, but only on a couple of different songs. He ends up having a protege in the thousands known as Chance the Rapper, and Chance the Rapper comes out with an entirely gospel inspired rap album called Coloring Book. It's fantastic. I love it. It's probably my most listened to rap album that I've ever listened to. I was like, real Chance the Rapper fans, or hipster Chance the Rapper fans, as Nolan and I like to call him. That's okay. They talk about his first LP being his best one. That's acid rap. That's if you ask Eric Pedersen what's the best Chance the Rapper album, he'll say acid rap. He's a Chance hipster. That's okay. But his Coloring Book album is so gospel inspired. There's so much gospel music and talking about restoring the city of Chicago and all that kind of stuff. It was inspired based off of the idea of talking about what it was like growing up in Chicago as a South Side Chicago guy, and wanting to see life change there, and what changed for him and why he was able to have this experience was his grandma took his ass to church every single day, and how he actually started his career was he was singing gospel choir at his grandma's church all throughout, elementary, junior high, high school, like that. And that's how he ended up getting into the music, and then, use that as his inspiration for what he then came up with. And so I don't remember what Nolan ended up playing like something on my playlists or whatever. He I just want to see, he went into my Apple Music and it was like Colton's list, where it's like, all right, these are all be songs that Colton would want to listen to or whatever. And And there was a song off of that album on there. And I was like, dude, I haven't listened to Coloring Book in so long. And so Nolan put it on. And then I've listened to it probably 2 or 3 times this week since he did it last week. So fantastic album. Love it. Yeah. So that's what I've been listening to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for grandmama.
That's right. In Southside Chicago. It's not exactly
Grandmamas
this.
are keeping society together by a thread in too many places.
Yep. 100%. Well, are you ready for your TikTok trend? Your
Sure.
trivia TikTok trend?
Let's do it.
All right. So we're playing our 3 strikes and you're out. You're going to have kind of similar to, I guess it's kind of similar to like a Family Feud little setup here. You have 10 answers on the board. You have 3 lives. I will give you, if you get the honorable mentions, I'll give you a life back. Okay. So I got 13 names. If you get an honorable mention, I'll give you a life back if you lose any. But you don't get a surplus. So if you get one of those while you already have 3 lives, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you an extra one.
Sorry. Oof. U.S. soccer lost again.
Yeah, 4-0 to the Swiss.
To the Swiss, man.
Yeah.
U.S. and Mexico soccer.
Yeah. I hope we figure things out. Okay. So today, what you are going to be guessing is you have. Now, we had actually had this conversation last Saturday, not like 3 days ago, but so 10 days ago. We talked about somebody was asked on TikTok, and I brought it up as a discussion while we were all hanging out watching soccer. This guy talked about his personal 5 worst fan bases across the United States when it comes to sports. Now, AI was able to get in on this conversation. So AI has generated their top 10 worst sports. Now, remember, AI is taking stuff from everywhere. And now let me give you the basis for it.
Are we doing cities or teams?
Teams.
All right.
Okay, franchises. Reputation, traits that they're known for, overall toxicity, and fan experience. So that is what they kind of went off of talking about. And again, some of the like traits and stuff, think about hospitality, amenities, that kind of stuff. So we are looking at the 10 worst fan organizations in America according to AI. And I'll give you a little snippet about why each of those were selected.
Not in any particular order. Raiders.
All right. The Las Vegas Raiders are sitting at number 3. The reason why they are sitting at number 3 is their reputation. Raider Nation is loud, intimidating, and occasionally violent. Their traits are their deep loyalty, but prone to fights and confrontations. And their fan experience, opposing fans are sometimes warned not to wear their team's colors. Coming in at number 3, the Las Vegas Raiders, formerly Oakland and LA.
Number 2, and they might be number 1. They should be number 1. Eagles.
The Eagles are number 1. The Philadelphia Eagles have a reputation. Infamously, they have thrown snowballs at Santa Claus and cheered when opposing players got injured. Their traits are they're hostile, aggressive, and they're very proud of their toughness. Fan experience, visiting fans often report feeling unsafe wearing opposing team gear.
They have a jail in their stadium.
That's wild.
Number 3, I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
The Cowboys are ranked number 5. Cowboys have a reputation as America's team. The label rubs many wrong, overly boastful. Their traits are they're entitled, bandwagon heavy, and often unrealistic. Their fan experience, the fan base's arrogance turns off both locals and rivals. So nothing super bad there. Just, it feels like that one's just they're annoying.
Number 4, the Dodgers.
The Dodgers are not on the list.
What?
They did not make the AI list for worst fan bases. Don't get me wrong. As a Dodger fan, it's okay to sit there and say they have a casual fan base. They show up.
They have a casual.
Inning.
They have a 2-pronged problem. They have a casual fan base, and then they have a very overly passionate fan base that has been prone to violence over the last 20, 30 years.
You know what? You can't have one and have the other. Okay?
No, you can. That's called a dichotomy, and we
do.
can have them. Cognitive dissonance is a thing.
They are not an honorable mention, nor are
All right,
they.
what do I got? 3 strikes? Good
you
Lord.
got 3 strikes. You only had, that was strike 1.
Amenities.
Do you want me to tell you the sports of the top 10s?
Sure.
Okay, there is no hockey. You need to guess 2 more NFL teams, 3 baseball teams, and 2 basketball teams.
I'm going to take a stab. This might be strike number 2, but I'm going to put Lakers on there.
The Lakers are number 6. Probably for a lot of the same reasons that you felt about the Dodgers. Their reputation is they are celebrity-filled and aloof. Many fans are seen as fair weather. Traits, they have entitlement, especially during bad seasons. Fan experience, visiting fans describe a lack of hospitality and occasional snobbery.
And they riot when they win. Detroit Pistons.
No, the Pistons are not.
They had a
on the
fight.
list.
All right, that's 2
Hey,
strike.
listen, this is AI. It's not me.
I will take the Cleveland Browns for 100.
Oh, and that is it.
Yeah.
Strike 3. They are not considered one of the worst fan bases, not at least in the top 10.
No, that's kind of a
or any of the honorable mentions. Were you thinking of anybody else?
no.
All right. So at number 2 on our list, we have the Boston Red Sox.
Why? Because they're racist?
Actually, yes. It says historic elitism, occasional racist
Yeah, I should've
incidents
thought
at
of that.
Fenway. Can be
Okay, right.
smug and unwelcoming. They are passionate, but visiting Yankees or AL East fans report particularly harsh treatment. Coming in at number 4, I can't believe you didn't guess the Yankees. Come on.
Why are the Yankees on there when the Dodgers aren't?
Did you not see them literally drag a ball out of Mookie Betts' hand when he got a foul ball?
So what?
They assaulted a player on the field.
They sing "God Bless America" between the 7th inning. So it balances out.
I didn't know you were a nationalist. My bad.
Giants threw batteries at Dodger players. Are they on the list?
They are not.
Yeah, see?
Arrogance from decades of success, Yankee superiority, loud, dismissive, entitled.
Okay. When you win as many, that's bullshit. When you win as much as they can, that's not arrogant. I don't like it. I hate the Yankees, but come on.
Fan experience, visiting fans often get heckled, especially Boston fans.
That's because they're from New York, not because it's the Yankees.
This one was a little weird to me. I didn't really feel like this was a problem. Cubs fans, apparently, number 7. Wrigleyville Park party culture can be obnoxious and overly drunk. Die hard to the point of delusion, especially in rivalry games. Cardinals fans in particular describe hostile or mocking treatment.
What AI did you use? Is this Prude GPT?
No, this is Chat GPT. Coming in at number 8, Boston Celtics.
Oh, yeah. I should have done both the... Yeah.
Said similar to Sox fans, historic arrogance,
Yeah,
occasional
that's on me.
racial controversies.
Freaking ran the Lakers out of, nearly burned down their bus.
Defensive about their legacy, quick to anger, fan experience known for booing anyone,
Yeah,
even former players. I don't know how Boston is is it just that Philadelphia is just like that much worse, that Boston is able to hide in the shadows of Philadelphia? They're just like, oh yeah, we're a good sports city, but everybody knows that Boston's a terrible sports city. Well, I mean, their fans are diehards. Like, I'm not discrediting that. I'm just saying it's not a safe.
It was fairly well known. It was well known for a long time. Look, the Northeast has a racist problem that the Northeast wants to act like is a Southern problem, but in some ways, the North is just as racist. Well, I heard anyway. They did have riots in New York City on multiple occasions during the Civil War. So, yeah, I forgot about the Celtics. They do have a rather saucy fan base when it comes to race.
Number 9. Bills Mafia.
Oh, come on.
It's legendary for wild, sometimes dangerous tailgating antics. Loyal, but known to cross lines with fire, tables, and bodily fluids. Not necessarily mean, but definitely unhinged is what it said.
Well, you'd be like that too if you're having to watch games in sub-zero temperature.
Yeah, you gotta find a way to stay active. Although apparently some of the nicest tailgates you can go to are Vikings or Packers.
Packers fans are. Packers fans are different. Small town, don't you know?
It is a small town, smaller than the city of Visalia.
Yep.
Coming in at number 10, I'm sorry, Andy, the San Francisco 49ers.
I thought about the 49ers, but
reputation in recent years, the fan base has grown more entitled and toxic online, apparently. They're
Oh, wow.
dismissive, overhyped, trash talk heavy. Fan experience visiting fans say Levi's Stadium is oddly sterile, but the fans are increasingly confrontational.
I will say Levi Stadium, having been there several times, it sucks ass for a modern stadium. It was a profound waste of money.
And then our 3 honorable mentions. In the same vein as the Lakers, you have the Miami Heat, accused of being fair weather and arriving late, leaving early. Dodgers fans as well. The New York Knicks, delusional loyalty despite decades of failure equals toxic Twitter presence.
Well, that's true.
And then finally, last but not least, is the Houston Astros post-cheating scandal. Fan base became especially defensive and aggressive.
Okay, well.
That is what AI believes are the 10
It
most...
is a fan base, which is short for fanatical. So
There you go.
yeah, I don't apologize for the Bills and frankly the Yankees, but the Celtics and the Red Sox I should have gotten at least. Browns was a dumb one.
I don't know anything about Browns fans.
I figured maybe there was something toxic about the dog pound or something.
I was like, well, also Cleveland is Cleveland. So, I mean, I wasn't going to put that past it either. Because,
Talk about it.
Oh, I was like, if you want to talk about the worst fans in college football, you could talk about Ohio State. So
It's true. Cleveland hasn't won a championship since 1959, I think. And that was an it was an AFL championship when they had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time that no one talks about, Otto Graham.
Wait, did you say Cleveland, like the city itself?
No, the
okay.
Browns.
Got you, the Browns. I was
No.
like, wait, what? The Cavs won.
Basketball, Cavs won once or twice. Poor Indians, they flirted with it several times.
Yeah, they haven't won since
Indians
the 40s.
were really good they were really good.
They're the longest drought in baseball.
Yeah, they had a fantastic team in the 90s, and they just kept getting beat by, like, who they lose to? Well, the Braves. I think they lost to the Braves a bunch. Anyway.
Is this fitting for Hot Topic tonight?
Yeah.
All right, we're getting into beer number 2. We're drinking the We Love LA West Coast IPA from Smog City Brewing Company.
Oh, excuse me. Oh. Need a sneeze button.
Again, if you don't remember, we've had 1 or 2 We Love LAs on the show. It was a push by breweries to giving back to the community of Los Angeles after the Los Angeles fires that went on this year. It says over 175 breweries on this label. I think that they're one of the first people to hop on this. And so it actually went up to 200 plus breweries ended up signing up and going on this for long-term fiery recovery through the United Way. So they have a donation QR code on all of their labels. Not just any We Love LA label has the QR code there for you. And there's been some really tasty beer out of this series, so across the state of California. So, and it could possibly be outside of the state of California, but I've only seen breweries from California. So everybody else, from what I've seen, hates Los Angeles or California. So I didn't know if they were going to step up and help out. So I like it.
It's in that belching beaver, like, terps territory.
Yeah.
So this is going to sound contradictory. I think you'll know what I mean. I wouldn't call it drinkable. I wouldn't call it drinkable in that I'm not, if this was the first one and I planned on crushing a 4-pack of beer, I wouldn't be like, ooh, yeah, I'm going to crush this thing in a couple hours.
Yeah.
I'd probably have 2 and then foist the rest off of my friends. Well, you know what? It's toning down the longer it's in the can, though. Yeah, it's got that terpy flavor. It very much reminds me of that Terps beer that Belching Beaver makes. It doesn't say, all it says is support from Yakima Chief hops, but I think that's just the company they got the hops from. I don't think that's what they used.
I think it's kind of got a little bit of a malty flavor to it compared to what we just drank, for sure. Like they got a sweeter barley mash here.
I don't love it. Don't hate it.
In my opinion, I like it better than the last one.
I could see that. It's growing on me.
I was like, we'll see how it feels the rest of the can. But for the time being, that's what I got.
I don't want it to get warm. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, this is one of those. I think the longer it goes, if it's just like still sitting here in like 45 minutes, there's like a little bit left. It's going to be work. Then turn into a meal. Yeah, it's good. It's fine. It's got a interesting. When I poured it, it looked clear. Did you notice that?
No, I did not.
It seemed when I poured it, I swear it looked clear, and then now it's got this opaque.
This is a West Coast IPA, according to them. So
No, it's not a West Coast IPA. That's an IPA. It's a meaningless term. It's now been rendered useless. Yes, it's made on the West Coast. I love you, Smog City. It's you and El Segundo. You're the tops in Los Angeles. All right. We do have kind of a churchy thing to get to, Christian thing to get to, but I don't really have anything. This is kind of related to. I am baffled right now. We live in our country right now is very intellectually broken because, and I wouldn't even say in some respects, it's not just the United States, it's the West. Because the people who are running most Western countries and the intellectual class and cultural class that kind of back them up and work with them will very much tell you that nationalism is bad. Some might even say it's not just bad, it's evil. That nationalism can be equated to fascism and racism. And yet, I'm supposed to hold blood oaths for countries I've never been to, like Ukraine and Israel. So how does that work? I'm supposed to be nationalistic for two countries that I don't live in and haven't visited, but I can't be nationalistic towards my own country. And if I don't actually support Israel and Ukraine, then I'm not a real American. And then at the same time, borders are bad. We're just supposed to let people come in, and yet border integrity is the number one thing in Ukraine and Israel. I'm just over it already. We're in a dark, bleak place, and I don't like it. I think I'm gonna have to untangle from current events. And it's not, I'm kind of complaining about obviously about more leaning people here, but the rights really know better. There was a terrorist attack. There was an attack in Denver, 2-3 weeks ago, where a dude walked up at a park where there was a bunch of protesters who had been peacefully protesting on behalf of Israel in Boulder, Colorado.
Yep.
And he tried to, he tried to light them on fire. I guess he did light a couple of them on fire. And I heard people on the right the next day just ranting and raving about how the governor of Colorado and the local people wouldn't call it a terrorist attack. And I'm thinking, yes. And you guys get really angry when the left tries to create hate crime laws because you say correctly, I think, murder's murder. Let's not put the motives into it. So, make up your mind. Showing up at a peaceful demonstration, from what I could tell, were a bunch of fairly old, like elderly people.
Yep.
And trying to set them on fire. I don't need terrorism tacked on there to be outraged by it. And I don't even need the law to tack it on. It's abhorrent on its base. So even the right is everyone's talking out of both sides of their ass, and I'm sick and tired of it. So that's it. This is my 5-minute rant, 2-minute rant, whatever.
I think so. So one of the things that are really difficult for us right now in our world, and something that I've grown to struggle with, is, again, I care for every person on this planet because I believe that that's what Jesus has called us to do. The hard part is I find the thing that I struggle with the most is trying to walk that line of caring for everyone on this planet, and then what does that look like in our context today. Because of me and my stature and what I'm able to do, I can't necessarily go out and just be like, okay, let's remove all borders. Because in the grand scheme of things, as far as if we want to get on a philosophical debate, borders don't make sense to me.
Yeah, I get that.
In the grand scheme of things, philosophically, borders shouldn't exist, in my opinion. If you were to come and make an argument to me about how borders should exist on a hypothetical philosophical level, I don't know how it would work for you. Like, you would be defending tribalism. That I feel like would be your only approach to that. And I mean, like, you could go micro if you wanted to and talk about, well, we technically have borders within our own house, right? Like, and especially as Americans, we sit there and we define the lines of our property, and we say that no one is allowed to come into our property unless invited. And so that's how you would see things. But then, again, you could sit there and say it's communist to say that, a lot of what we have is communal because we want what is ours, as opposed to giving and sharing and that kind of stuff. Now, what does that look like in a functional economic setting? It just doesn't work. And so therefore I don't sit there and I say, like, I can't sit there and defend my stance on borders out there. Like, I can't defend it in today's 21st century context. There's no way to sit there. And so you have, but yet I was like, you said that you were coming down on the left. I don't like the right when they're sitting there and saying, and this was always kind of like, this was a straw man fallacy from the get-go, where they're just like, where people wave their Mexican flags in these protests or whatever, and they're like, well, if they're so nationalistic towards Mexico, then they should go back. Again, I was like, okay, well, that's dumb. In my opinion, I get where you're coming from, and I understand where because you think that that's what they're wanting to be a part of or whatever, but actually it's about, I was like, when they're waving their Mexican flag, it's about their culture. Like, it's not, it's just their cultural environment that they're in. They're not sitting there and saying, like, we want Mexico to be here or whatever, but they want their culture there, and being proud of where they came from is a part of it. Same fucking reason people wave fucking Irish flags for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, but I think context matters in this case. I think if you're upset by Mexicans putting on their gear and flying the flag at Cinco de Mayo or at a Mexican national team soccer match, that's ridiculous. But it's a bad look when you're ostensibly protesting deportations of people who are here illegally, and you're waving a Mexican flag, and by the way, American flags are being burned. It's just like, yeah, okay, that you're bringing on whatever, you're reinforcing whatever bad stereotypes you might think people are creating of you by doing that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, but okay, so here's the thing about burning the American flag.
I actually don't care about burning the American flag. I think
but people do, and so therefore, like, people like make it like, yeah, I know you don't, but I'm just saying that when it comes to burning the American flag, it's the same thing as fucking taking a knee for the national anthem. Like, all of a sudden, everybody like gets all hot and heavy, and it's like, okay, how did that affect you in any way, shape, or form? They're like, no, you got to have respect for the flag because what it means to veterans. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, like, I'm sorry, like,
yeah, I'm tired of people speaking on behalf of veterans. I'm frankly tired of all veterans speaking on behalf of all veterans. Most of the veterans that I trust are like, speak for myself. I don't speak for everybody else. So
I'm also tired of, and this might be one of those things that, like, I just don't hold a lot of things sacred.
Oh, 100%. I don't like, I go out of my way to not do not the national anthem, but, well, I mean, I don't do the pledge anymore. I will not do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't do the Pledge of Allegiance. It's said in school every single day, and I don't do it.
I wouldn't.
I stand up to be respectful.
If you do this, if you're a Christian and you like doing the Pledge of Allegiance, I don't think you're a bad Christian, but I think Christians should not do the Pledge of Allegiance. We have one thing we pledge allegiance to, and that's Jesus, and that's it. That does not mean that you can't be a loyal American citizen, but you should not be doing What we recite in the Pledge of Allegiance should not be recited, I think, by Christians. I'm standing by a bunch of them. I'm not going to sit there and go and tisk tisk and think, oh, you guys are. But if I'm really being honest, and someone pressed me, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think we should be doing this. This is not a Christian thing.
Yeah, it's said every day in school. I don't ever say it. I stand up to be respectful when I face the flag. Because again, I feel like sometimes Americans get caught up in this where it's like, well, if you're not going to do it, then why be respectful of whatever? And it's like, no, like it's the cultural like norm or whatever. It's just the same way that if I was in the Middle East, I'd wear the garbs that I need to wear, or wherever it is that I go, I'm going to try to be as respectful towards my hosts as possible. And I currently live in the United States, and this is their traditions. These are the things that they hold dear. And so for me, I sit there, and as long as it's not something that's contradicting with who I am, and so I don't have to say those words out loud. I don't have to sit there and believe in that or whatever. So therefore I stand there politely and I just stand there and I'm like, okay. And then once it's done, it doesn't hurt me. Like it doesn't hurt my faith. There's not a part of my soul that dies when I go there, but I just find it as a way of being respectful towards whatever people believe the flag therefore symbolizes.
I'm also sick and tired of the people died for this guilt trip. It's bullshit. It's not bullshit that people died. It's not bullshit that a lot of people died truly believing that they were trying to save democracy in the United States. And I get all that. And I still get as emotional as I did as a young kid, militaristic little kid. Don't get me wrong. I am fully aware of the ultimate sacrifice people made. But I hear this on a fairly regular basis, even within our social group, of out of respect for those who served and died. I'm like, no, fuck that. That does not mean then I have to have a fucking guilt trip and I have to think this one way because people got drafted into a war and had to go fight in fucking France in 1914.
Yeah, and I mean, and when it comes to again, this is the hard thing where it's like I don't hold things sacred. So like I don't. And I mean, I teach symbolism, just so we're clear, and I like it when people identify symbolism. And I understand what it means in literature, and I understand what it means in our lives. But if you're sitting there and things are just things, I was like, when you make it more than a thing, that's when problems arise. That's why you can't let Colin Kaepernick take a knee on the fucking football field. Is you're sitting there and you're so upset over the fact that somebody is doing something that you don't want them to be doing, but it's not affecting you in your life whatsoever. But yet you don't. And I mean, that's actually what made the beauty of his protest. Like, that's where it didn't like, I was like, cool. That's like the easiest protest of all time. He's literally just taking a knee for the national anthem. That's it. But yet it offended so many people drastically. And burning the flag, again, so many people are affected physically by the burning of the flag, where it's like, again, and here's the thing, and okay, so like let's make it more personal. Like people go after Christian shit. Like let's say they go after, they're burning crosses. They're
those who burn crosses.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. So all of that shit's going on. They're desecrating sacred religious shit. I think Jesus would be like, yeah, I'm not in the cross. I'm not in this. I'm in you. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm not in these things, right? Like that's actually a conversation that God has with Elisha. Is it Elijah or Elisha? Which one goes up to the, and he goes to Zion and he's not in.
I want to say that's Elijah.
He sends all this shit and he's like, I'm not, but God wasn't in that. And he sends this and God wasn't in that. And then he comes in a whisper and God was in the whisper. And he's like, Elijah, I'm not going back to that anymore.
Right.
I was like, you're here looking for me and things. but I'm hearing you. You are the prophet. And here's the thing is that after Jesus' death and what we're talking about tonight with Pentecost, we become the prophets. God now has direct line with every single one of us. Before that moment, God was just with select individuals. But in the night of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit gets put out, and God is now with us always. And so we are all prophets. And so from that, that's where we find. And so therefore, you should sit there and be upset when things are happening to your brothers and your sisters all around the world, because that is when somebody is doing something to God. Because God is in all of us. Every single person. Because every single person is deserving of God's grace and his mercy, and his Holy Spirit was poured out for every single person. So that's how, so I get upset like right now with the riots. I'm not a big fan of whatever is going on. But I struggle internally with a lot of the nationalism talks. Again, I don't think that nationalism should exist from the standpoint of, don't get me wrong. We just talked about the fact that I'm upset that the United States lost 4-0 to fucking Switzerland, which is okay. Like, I don't mind that kind of shit, but I'm not talking about, but I don't like when people put their country before the basic human rights of other people. And I get port of entry. I get that whole debacle. I understand. This is the 21st world that we live in, and it breaks my heart that this is the world that we have to live in, to where we have the opportunity, or we have the funds and the capabilities of making sure that lots of people are able to be successful. There are people that want that for themselves, and for whatever reason, they may not be able to get it because of where they're coming from El Salvador or Colombia or whatever, and they're coming in illegally through our borders. And yeah, and there's only so much of that that's able to go around.
Correct. That's the problem. You can't sustain when you have, there are a finite, we like to pretend that we have a finite number of resources because,
Or infinite.
or infinite number of resources because we're the world's superpower, which I don't think is correct either anymore. But no, we have a limited amount of ability to educate people who come in. We have a limited amount of healthcare services, and we now live in a world where education through grade 12 is required. If you do not send your kid, you will be run afoul of the authorities, and it is mandatory that emergency rooms have to take you in. That's been the law since the mid 80s when the Supreme Court ruled it. So when you have those kind of things, yeah, you can't absorb. There's only a certain number of people that you can absorb just coming in. And that's not even dealing with economic things like 14 million people come in over a 6 or 7 year period. What does that do to distress and keep down wages, particularly lower wages and that kind of thing? And how much of this is slave labor? How much of this is sex slave trafficking, which, interesting, it seems like Hollywood is picking up more and more on. There's a lot more. There are slowly movies trickling out that have a lot to do with slave labor. The latest, The Accountant 2, kind of deals with this, and you're kind of like, yeah, I think they know something's going on. So, I mean, there's issues like that. And then I think also, it's overstated to the level of integration that previous generations did. It was quite common for first generation Poles and Italians and non-Anglos to not learn the language even after being here 20 years. And a lot of people complain about that and have this idea that mom moved from Sicily and learned the language, and that's not what happened. However, language is key to a culture and a country, and I think it's always been a detriment that we haven't required English as the national language if we're going to allow a lot of immigrants in. It doesn't mean that they go to jail because they don't learn it, but like it shouldn't be that everybody's got to accommodate for, like, I think 40 languages now in California that they require for certain services. No, learn English. You want to vote? Learn English. You want to drive? Learn how to at least read English. You don't have to be proficient in it and speak it, but you better well be able to read it enough to where you know what stop is and yield and those kind of things. So I will say this, and this might sound like I'm being funny. I'm not. If you look at the riots that we've had the last couple of years, they've all started around this time of year where kids are all coming out of school. And I think a lot of what's going on is actually not. And I had the same thought during COVID when we had the COVID riots and / BLM riots. I think this is a lot of, if I'm being honest, upper middle rich kids who are showing up. That's why they got masks on. They don't have to work for a living in their time off from high school, like senior year of high school or college. They're bored and they want to go down and get their kicks because that's all we do now is find.
Because I saw a movie about Route 66. I got you.
They like everything's about getting adrenaline rushes, and so yeah, let's go down and get our adrenaline rush and throw a couple rocks at cops and then run away and try to avoid getting pinched. So I think a lot of what's going on isn't actually about deportations and stuff like that. It's just bored or flat out bad actors showing up and causing mayhem, partially because the cops are letting them. I don't like, you and I have been very adamant we don't like violence, but it is also violent to destroy someone's property that is not yours. That is an act of violence toward that person.
Right.
So when you go in, like last night was very well documented, you go into a sushi place and destroy it, you have now committed physical violence, yes, to the premises, but you've probably put them out of business and 3, 4, 10, who knows how many employees out of work because that person has now lost their business. Yes, even with the insurance.
Right.
Sorry, I am not for violence, but that is one where, no, someone needs to step in and defend the innocent people who don't have anything to do with any of this and say, you want to start throwing rocks, you want to start breaking property, breaking into places and stealing stuff, we are going to very forcefully arrest you. And then if I'm correct, and a lot of these people are just knuckleheads who are bored and don't have to work, they'll stop showing up because it's not fun anymore. So it's so ridiculous. At this point, I think the only thing Los Angeles excels at is fucking rioting. And I'm not even kidding. We had the 60 riots, the riot that I lived through. That was another one that got me riled up, was seeing all these people getting mad about the military being sent out. And you know this, Colton. Anybody that knows me knows my story of I lived through the Rodney King riots. I watched on television block after block after block moving north towards my condo in in Hollywood, right in the middle of Hollywood on Gower Boulevard, watching these places getting burned down, and they got 2 large city blocks away. So it was, I think they were on Wilshire. So they were within a mile of my house, my condo, and I packed my stuff up and left. And I did not return to my place for a week because the Marines were guarding my neighborhood. And for several days, they didn't let anybody in. And then once they did let people in to go see if their places hadn't been burned down or get a change of underwear, you had to show ID. So it's not unprecedented that the National Guard or the Marines get called out in Los Angeles. It's happened multiple times. And throw in there anytime the fucking Dodgers or UCLA, for God's sakes, you talk about a silver spoon sweater and polo school. This isn't some cool kid school. Every time we win, there's a riot in Westwood and Beverly Hills. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So,
well, when it's sparse that you guys ever win anything, I mean.
And then the Lakers, there's always a riot. It's again, like I said, I think it's about the only thing Los Angeles is proficient at this point. So, all right. Well, you brought it up. I think this does blend into Pentecost. This episode will drop. What's today? Today's the 10th. This episode will drop probably around the 17th or 18th. So it'll be about 10 days after Pentecost, which was on the 8th. Colton,
It'll
you
be
want to
about 50
explain what
days
the
after
Pentecost
Pentecost.
is? Pentecost Sunday?
Wait, what?
Do you want to explain Pentecost Sunday? Or you want me to just read from it? Read from the...
I mean, you can do what you want.
So, yeah, Sunday the 8th was Pentecost Sunday. There's two significant things about Pentecost. One, we know it as Pentecost from our New Testament. Christians read from the New Testament. The Jewish, when we read it, it says Pentecost. The Jewish know it as the Shavuot, I think is how you pronounce it.
The Shabbat.
Well, I heard several people, I heard different pronunciations.
Oh,
It's
that's fine.
Shavuot or Shavuot. But basically it's a period after Passover. And so in Acts chapter 2, Jesus has recently ascended into heaven, and Christians from all over the Roman Empire have gathered in Jerusalem for this Pentecost, this Shavuot. And chapter 2 reads, when the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. Suddenly a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. And they were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. Now they were staying in Jerusalem, God-fearing Jews from every nation under heaven. When they heard this sound, a crowd came together in bewilderment because one heard their own language being spoken. Each one heard their language being spoken. Utterly amazed, they asked, aren't all these who are speaking Galileans? Then how is it each of us hears them in our native tongue? Parthians, Medes, Elamites, residents of Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, Egypt, and parts of Libya near Nicene, visitors of Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs, we hear them declaring the wonders of God in our own tongues. Amazed and perplexed, they asked one another, what does this mean? Some, however, made fun of them and said they've had too much wine. And then Peter stands up with the 11, the other disciples, raises his voice, and he says, these people are not drunk. As you suppose, it's only 9 a.m. Well, that doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't change anything for me.
Come on, Peter. Give me a break. That's a tailgate at a USC football game. No, this is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. And then he quotes Joel, who talks about pouring out his spirit on the people. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Peter basically stands up and quotes from the Old Testament 3 or 4 different times to show that this is a sign of prophecy. So, as you said, this is the moment where, well, one, this chapter has been then taken way out of context by huge swaths of Christianity. This does not mean that everyone can speak in tongues, as some groups would have you believe. In fact, I mean, the very people who are quoted here later say, well, no, I think it's Paul talks about it. Some have the gift of tongues, just as some have the gift of prophecy and some have the gift of healing and these other gifts of the Spirit. Some have them, but not everybody has the gifts of tongues. This is clearly a moment where God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit are coming together to show what the church is supposed to look like in the perfect situation, correct? Is that a fair assessment of this?
What the church is supposed to look like?
We have this is a group of people. This is a group
You're talking about like when okay, I was like,
this is a moment in time.
It's a moment in time, and here you get to see people from all walks of life. All borders are laid out. Not to get back to our borders conversation.
No, it's perfectly fine.
I mean, everybody comes in from around and are like, what the hell just happened? And you see everyone is able to communicate. Everybody hears the good news. And everybody becomes believers right then and there. You have this very genuine, like if you think that baptisms today make you cry with just like 2 or 3 people, imagine all these people coming together, not being able to understand each other. This is a miracle that takes place. And it's not often like described as being a miracle that people really reference, but what happens in this place is a miracle. This is what allows for the church to become the church. This is how Christianity is instead of just those guys in that room, Christianity becomes what it is because of this moment. We would not have the church today if it was just those guys in that room.
Yeah, let me interject real quick because I didn't read the rest of the chapter, and I should, or at least the very end of the chapter. Peter, like I said, Peter goes on and quotes several things from the Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament, to show prophecy. He then chides the crowd who's questioning and says, he points out to them, look, this is all from this guy Jesus that you had crucified. He is who he said he was. He wasn't an imposter. He wasn't crazy. He was exactly who he said he was. And then he wraps it up by, therefore, let all Israel be assured of this. God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Messiah.
Yeah.
When the people heard this, they were cut to the heart and said to Peter and the apostles, brothers, what shall we do? Peter replied, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of your sins, and you will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. The promise is for you and your children and for all who are far off, for all whom the Lord our God will call. With many other words he warned them, and he pleaded with them, save yourselves from this corrupt generation. Those who accepted the message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their number that day.
Also, when he said the corrupt generation, he was definitely talking about Gen Z.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say it explicitly in the text, but it's implied.
Well, you know me. Boomers were the first of that, but...
Well, the boomers wrote the Bible, so...
Yeah, and just not to be wise guys, if you're wondering what that means. So anybody and everybody that you're going to read in the New Testament was under the assumption that this was it. This was like... Jesus wasn't coming thousands of years from now.
No.
He was coming. This is the end of times, and we're trying to save as many people as possible, and he's coming back. And so, which, we look at that, and some of us kind of scoff at that.
Well, don't scoff at it. Actually,
we should have that determination for every generation.
Well, it depends on the kind of pressure you're putting on the. I was like, I don't mind you having that kind of determination, but also at the same time,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, don't use that to manipulate people to then therefore do X, Y,
well,
Z.
don't do what we've railed against, like you're going to hell and
right. And when Judgment Day comes, I don't want you to go to hell. Yeah, so that is Pentecost, and yeah, I agree. I think that was a huge moment for the church and what was going on.
It's an interesting juxtaposition to the story of Babel in Genesis.
Yeah, it is a coming together of the peoples as opposed to a diaspora.
Yeah, and if you do some research online, you can probably find a lot of people who've preached on the Pentecost and Babel and how they're this dichotomy, like this direct dichotomy. I think you can get over your skis if you say that this is directly, like this is God directly, that Babel somehow this foreshadowing of this moment in the Pentecost. I think that's overstating it, but I think it is interesting if you do read the story of Babel. If you're not familiar with it, it's from the Old Testament. It's after the flood. Society is congregating together in an area in the Middle East. I think it's somewhere around modern day Syria, I think is where it is. It's Syria or Turkey. They've actually found ziggurats that seem to closely resemble what's described. Anyway, there's this character named Nimrod who's the leader of the group.
That's why you talk about Nimrods.
If you read in our English Bibles, he's kind of talked about as being a great hunter. But in the Hebrew, if you read Hebrew commentaries, I mean like old ones, not like modern ones, it's understood that he's a hunter of men.
Yeah.
Basically, you either join me or I'm going to kill you. But he's trying to build up this great nation, and then they're going to build this great tower. And this tower is the story of the Tower of Babel. This is humanity on the one hand trying to show how great it is and how it can go up into the heavens, which is basically them trying to say that we're like God. Yes, God lives in the heavens, so we're going to build a tower to the heavens to show God that we don't need him. And on the other hand, it's also from the Old Testament's point of view, it's this is mankind basically giving God a middle finger where he says, go out and spread. God wants humanity to go out and spread over the earth. And this story is kind of intimating that humanity's all decided, screw you, God, we're just going to all congregate together and build this massive city and this massive structure because we don't need you anymore.
Right.
And then God, who is strangely referred to as the we, it's not strange though, it's the Trinity gets together and says, well, we can't have this, and makes it to where they can't talk to each other, and then they're kind of scattered to the four winds of the earth. And so, yes, I believe this is a myth. I believe there's maybe some truth to it, but it's also mainly being used as a myth to illustrate
the division of
biblical truths.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think it is this. The Pentecost is not a direct contradiction of it, but I think it's also an interesting. It's not out of bounds to say, this is kind of a contradiction to Babel, where God is saying humanity can't possibly be trusted to be unified in this way. And now that Christ has come and died for our sins, and now we've been entrusted with his gospel, and on the day that God is saying, you've been entrusted with the gospel, you've been entrusted with the Holy Spirit so that you can speak directly to me and then go out and speak to the nations, I am going to allow you all now to speak speak to where everyone understands one another. The language is actually, I don't know what it looks like. I haven't read any commentaries on what the literal translation is, but a lot of people make suppositions that everybody can hear everyone. You read it, it's actually not all that clear. It could be that everyone's speaking the same language, or it could just be that everyone's speaking, but each person can hear what other people are saying, and so it all sounds the same. But one way or another, the Holy Spirit is allowing people to all hear what's being said in an amazing way.
Yeah, and this is also where I kick back on, based off, and this may be for some of you that are listening, this is where I kick back on tongue speaking, is that in the Bible, anytime that tongues are recorded as being used, it is for understanding.
Yeah.
People are able to understand when they speak in tongues. All people that are present are able to know what is being said. Somehow, somewhere along the way, it became that you need a translator to then discern what it is that they're saying and then therefore say it. Doesn't make sense to me. And that's just kind of how I feel about it. So for when it comes to speaking in tongues, I'm very, very skeptical. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, not by any means, but there's a certain sect of religious communities that believe that it is a requirement that you are supposed to speak in tongues.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people within those churches that go and they hear them speak in tongues and they don't understand what is being said.
Greg Boyd came out of that movement. I think Greg Boyd became a Christian in a
Pentecost,
in a very particular type of Pentecostalism.
Well, you say he became a Christian. He was raised Catholic.
Well, he became
Protestant.
I think, according to his own, he truly came to Christ.
Yeah, I believe he did say that he went Pentecostal. And that kind of explains...
strange Pentecostal where everyone spoke in tongues, and if you weren't that type of Pentecostalism, you weren't an actual believer. To the point where he wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
He wrote a book about it to say, like I love you people, but this is incorrect. There's nothing biblical about this. So I think it's called Pentecost.
You know that the opener for his show every time is just him playing the drums, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a drummer, and he for his little like 7-minute show or whatever.
I grew up in Pentecostalism. I think I grew up in it till about 4th or 5th grade. What?
Are we doing younger, or
We can do younger.
do you want to? I was like,
Hell yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah, 4th or 5th grade. But I remember going to prayer again with the snakes. I gotta stop. I gotta wait for you to come back. We're gonna take a break.
Hey, Jojo. Hey, Jojo. Hi, Tanks.
Hey, buddy.
Back. I said one for each, right? Sure. I don't have to drive. I just did get up in the morning and move furniture around. I just have to get up and swim a mile before I... I've been staying on top of my water consumption, I'll tell you that much.
That reminds me. We're recording, but I'll take this out. This doesn't need on show. Nobody needs to know about this. I mean, it's not anything secret. It's just not interesting. The guy doing all the work, his name's Caesar.
How are we gonna get our beer this close?
We gotta learn how to cold crash properly. Yeah. I'm surprised our beer looks as clear as it is, and we didn't cold crash.
It does look pretty clear. Although Nolan said you guys had lots of sediment that first day. Have you had much sediment since?
He got sediment. I have not ever had sediment. So
I had like one flurry at the bottom of my glass, but he was like, it was pretty sediment.
nope.
It's like,
And I have been drinking our beer. I'll have to admit. I mean, it's not been every night, but there's been 2 nights where I'm like, I know, but I don't want to be like, hey, where'd all the beer go? I've been drinking it. Plus, I don't need to be drinking on a regular basis, but
super hot and heavy for it. I was like, I can't have one now. I was like, I'll probably have one every single time I come over, but I was like, I didn't have one tonight. It's just way too sweet.
it is sweet. Plus, we need to get rid of I think we're now caught up, so we can now start buying new beer. Whatever else is in there, we've already done on the show, other than that one 9%er. So
Yeah.
those I can either drink on my own or take down to Kuya for other people to share.
So wait, what did you just say?
Huh?
What did you just say, or what were you going to say? I interrupted.
So the guy doing my floors, his
Caesar.
name is
Yes.
Caesar.
Yeah.
I think his oldest son was here. He had his 3 sons are now out of school. So he had all
Okay.
3 of them helping him out. He's got
Yeah.
another guy who works with him. And they'd been here for a couple hours, and then I walked through and I looked, and he had an 1852 shirt on.
Oh, right on.
And I said, "Oh, you go to 1852?" He goes, "Yeah, I work there." And I said, "Oh, you work there?" "Yeah." And he goes, I play. And no, he said, "Well, I'm in the soccer league, and then I also work there." I said, "Oh, you're in the soccer league?" Yeah. And I work there. Okay. What do you do there? I said, "You work behind the bar or in the soccer?" He goes, "No, I work on the soccer side." His name is Caesar as well. And his dad plays.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're playing tonight. They're in.
Oh, they're
whatever-
in the draft league?
The draft. Yeah. So I'm going to ask Eric if he knows of any 2 Caesars on a team.
The men's draft league that just started tonight.
Oh,
that's
that just
good.
started tonight.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know if they signed up for that one. There's a men's draft league that just went into effect tonight, and
I think I got a notification for that. He goes, "Do you go to 1852?"
They
And
mu- I was like-
I go, I haven't been in like 9 months. The last event was, I think, like September. No, I said the last event was Oktoberfest. Then I haven't been since. But I used to go on a regular basis. So
Cesar Reynoso.
yes,
All right, one of them is on breakaway. Are they both playing?
they were both playing.
Okay, and then do we not have another Cesar? I don't see another Cesar Reynoso. So maybe. Oh wait, hold on. There's 2 more teams. Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah, because his dad Caesar was like, "Yeah, I'm going to play tonight," but he goes, I found out how old I am, and he's not that old. He's probably in his mid-30s, but at mid-30s playing soccer.
Yeah. So they did a draft. I don't understand what it was about. Probably Eric could probably tell us more. But
Yeah, I'm definitely going to ask Eric if he knows who it is.
Yeah, Caesar's on Breakaway. They all took team names of beers.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like an 1852 draft league. So like, I think that an employee is your captain, and they got to draft the team. I don't know how they know everybody. I don't know what's going on. Because Jeremy's on here. He's on Golden Goal. So I don't know how everything's going, but yeah, he's on Breakaway, which that's the golden or the blonde ale that you don't want.
It's okay.
I'm not saying it's good or anything. I mean, it's a blonde, so
I'd drink it if somebody else bought it for me, but I wouldn't. Otherwise, I'm drinking the lager.
the Kolsch isn't there anymore.
I know. It's my go-to. So I have to be more the Mexican lager than I usually drink. And then
I always drink the Mexican lager. That's my my go-to is Unite and Strengthen, but that's because I'm usually there for a soccer game, and so therefore
that smells funky.
it tastes funky.
Does it?
Yeah.
What the hell?
That is not the Pliny the Younger I remember tasting this year. The dry hopping had an effect on it this go around. Tim's clearing his palate. This is why you need pretzels, Andy. Pretzels help clear the palate. Yeah, it's funky.
It tastes like it's been marinating in a steak.
Okay, I was not getting that. It's been marinating in a steak. I think steaks are the things that marinate.
No, but it tastes like
Beef has been in here.
beef with Worcestershire sauce. Ooh, that's skunky. I wonder if this batch got a infection.
You
This
think
is not
so?
What we had.
I just think it tastes like it's been dry hopped.
But yeah, I need some pretzels or something. It can't be as bad as I'm thinking it is.
I don't really feel like it's that bad. I feel like it tastes like but it is definitely more dank forward than it's ever been. Tim's going to get pretzels. Give us a minute. Also, for any of you that were wondering, if you're still listening to this, there are breweries outside of California that do have We Love LA beers. None that I feel like are worth noting. I've had lots of beer outside of California, but none of these are ones as far as I have tried. But they might be pretty good. And even globally, there's been a couple of different breweries that have joined in on the We Love LA movement.
Problem is they're not plain.
Don't give those to me. I don't need those. Also, those are the ones that have like Szechuan peppercorn or something. They like tingle your tongue. I do like Dot's pretzels, but the blue one, the Southwest blend, there's something in there that tingles the hell out of your tongue. I don't know what it is.
Have you had the Parmesan yet?
The Parmesan garlic? Yeah, that shit's fire. Although, I gotta be honest, if I tried it side by side with the red one, I'd probably could tell you the difference in taste. But I've tried it by itself, and I'm just like, this tastes kind of like the original. Because there's just a shit ton of garlic powder in the original, too. Like,
You're just stale.
Eh.
It's going from bad to worse.
yeah, but you're trying to clear your palate. You're going to be fine. It's just going to be dank. That's all it is. As far as I can tell. Hey, Seek Beer Co. has a We Love LA.
They do?
Yeah. North Park
Oh.
has a We Love LA.
North Park ship?
I don't know. I've never actually looked that one up. I'm looking for barley and sword now. Oh, they're not there. Shocker. Virgin as a We Love LA.
Of course.
Burning Sun.
What?
Yeah, Burning Sun has a We Love LA.
Not when we were there. They must have already run out of it.
Well, we should go ask. If I had known, I would have asked. Any brewery, Dust Bowl has one. Do we have the Dust Bowl one?
We got the
Fieldwork
Dust
has
Bowl
one.
but it was like a lager or pilsner.
Is there a brewery that you want to know if it has a We Love LA?
Did we get a Belching Beaver one?
There is a Belching Beaver one. I don't think we have one, but Belching Beaver is on the list.
I assume Pizza Port did one.
Yep, they did. Any others you're wondering about?
Oh, what's the one that? What's the first one we did? Oh, see if Pure Project did one. Well, you have the whole list of who did one.
Mm-hmm.
Did Pure Project?
They did not. No.
Oh, hippy dippy bastards.
Bitches. Yeah, it's on their website. It says on the can.
What's the mission?
It says welovelabeer.com. And so that's where I went because I was seeing if I could actually just order some, and it said no, Mission did not. Wow, that's crazy for Mission.
Heathens. Oh, they only do North
There are a
Park-
bunch of Padre fans over there, and so they don't want to associate with LA.
North
I
Park.
say that, but meanwhile, Ballast Point is the people that make the Friar beer. Oh, but Ballast Point isn't on here.
They didn't make one.
They didn't make
Well,
one.
they're in reorganization right now. Oh, Alesmith. Did they make one?
No. Alesmith did not. Altamont did.
Okay.
Angel City did, obviously.
They do not ship bastards.
Who? Oh,
North
North
Park.
Park. That's such a bummer. Such a great beer. I'm wondering if Dudes did. Nope, they didn't. Unless they're the Dudes.
Participating breweries. We love beer. 818. Oh, I've had 818 Brewing. They are in the San Fernando Valley. I have a glass over there in my collection. 818. Angel City did.
Yep.
Alvarado did one.
Are you on the website?
I'm on
now?
the list. Arts District did one.
Yep.
Bottle Logic did one. I'm trying to see breweries that I'm aware that I know of. Virgin, Brewing Sun, Buzz Rock. Who's that? Carbonation.
And there are ones. What I was saying before you came back.
Oh, Claremont Craft Ales. We had one of theirs for the first time. You bought one of those, and we really enjoyed that one.
Oh yeah. I was saying to everybody before you got back. I was saying that
Fieldwork did.
That there are people outside of California that have done it as well.
Oh, cool. Figueroa Mountain did one. Fieldwork did one. Ghost Town Brewery did one. I've had them before.
I can't remember. if I've
Golden
had Ghost
Road.
Town.
They don't count. That's Anheuser-Busch. Give me a break. Harlan Brewing Company. They're pretty good.
Firestone Walker did one. How have we not tried that one yet?
I'm trying to think if Nolan and I had that at the Propagate. No, that was before the fire. That could not have been possible. La Quinta Brewing Company. Come on. Laughing Monk. I've had them before. I don't remember where. Lawless Brewing Company. That's where we went. Were you on that trip? That was a place over by Jamie's house that was two stories.
No. Oh, yes. Yes.
So that was they made one.
Oh, nice.
Monkish. Oh, Monkish made one. North Coast made one. I've had Paperback Brewing, but I don't know where they're at. I had them at
Well, I'd say
Paperback,
you're a
I
better
had
judge of this than I am because you've consumed beers from other states a little bit more than I have. I was like, if you want to go through participating
Paperback,
breweries,
I think is in Long Beach. I had them at that brewery that's not the brewery, the bar that's at the Whole Foods by Jamie's.
oh, nice.
A Radiant Beer Company I've had before. I don't remember where they're from. River, San Diego, San Pedro. That's so weird to see Seek. Spent Grain Brewing. That's an interesting name. Stone made one?
Yes, Stone did, but we haven't gotten that one.
Sugar Monkey Brewery. Okay. There does not exist. We've had a couple of their beers.
Yep.
The brewery, Topa Topa, that's in Ventura County. Let's see from elsewhere. I've had Base Camp before, out of Colorado. I've had Maui Brewing Company before. Used to be able to get them occasionally here at Bevmo. Bow and Arrow. Wow, Black Hops from Gold Coast, Australia. Encanto Brewing Company from Manila, Philippines. I bet that's former Navy dude. That's like Navy people. Totopia, Aichi, Japan. Huh. That's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I didn't look for my buddy Todd's place. I don't remember seeing it.
I didn't see it. Epic. I didn't see it.
They are not. Enterprise Brewing Company. That's a terrible name. Just makes me sound like, sorry, car company, the rental company ruined it. Okay, so I don't know. Do we have anything else?
No, I think that's it. Happy Pentecost, everybody.
I do think it. I think it's a good. Pentecost is a good reminder. I think it's a great reminder that we are supposed. Yes, it's part of human nature, and I don't think it's going to ever be resolved until Jesus comes back again. But we are supposed to, through the Holy Spirit, fight our human nature, fallen nature. We are supposed to be united as much as possible. I think it's a good reminder that, as you and I have talked about, what we spend probably the first 20 weeks of this podcast talking about, which is deconstructing not our faith, but deconstructing doctrine that doesn't have anything ultimately at the end of the day to do with our faith. We really need to get back to that. And the sooner the church got together and focused on what we can agree on, the better. And we all start speaking in one tongue, even though we're not literally speaking in one tongue, but speaking behind a unified voice and a unified message, the better. And that doesn't mean we're not supposed to criticize. I mean, we spend the show doing a lot of two guys sitting in the balcony in the peanut gallery complaining about Christians and Christianity. So yeah, it sounds a bit hypocritical, and I'm sure we're misguided on some things, but the hope is to get to where we get to a much simpler version of the gospel, much simpler version of Christianity, our lives, as we were talking about before, what it means to be an American. You can be a proud American without being a diehard American and believing all these tropes about, America and guns and apple pie and God and the flag and all this other nonsense that's not really fundamental to who we're supposed to be. So, anything else?
Nope. I think that was a really good episode, actually. So
I agree. So do all the things you're supposed to do. You know what? At the end of the day, I don't give two shits if you subscribe, rate, and review. The number one thing is just if you like the show and you have friends that who like to hear kind of stuff we talk about for an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours, just tell your friends. That's the best way for a podcast to grow. It's the best way for the kind of people who want to listen to this, because not everybody, I get it. Some people like little short morsels of 30, 45 minutes. It's not a criticism. It doesn't mean that they're less intellectually hefty or spiritual, whatever. But tell your friends about it.
actually, I gotta say, I was like, you say that. I really enjoy, and we talk about super listeners from the show. And if you want a super listener shout out, this is how you get a super listener shout out. We've gotten comments outside of the context of you're like, and I get it, you know us or whatever, so you're not going to send us a message on Podbean or whatever.
Yeah, Apple or Spotify, whatever.
But seriously, if you have anything that you want to say or comment or whatever, I was like, we've gotten positive feedback, and it means a lot to both of us when we get positive feedback. We've got negative feedback. This is the reason why, Tim and I, when we're doing X, Y, and Z, we change things up on how we're trying to do things. The only negative feedback that we continue to get that we're not going to change is everything's got to be done within 45 minutes.
Sorry, Gilbert. It's not
I just don't even understand how it would happen. So, but seriously, I love hearing from people, and I'm not the type that's going to approach you. I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, what'd you think of the podcast this week or whatever?
No.
So if you see us on a regular basis,
I feel like you and we don't talk about it all that much. And even the amount that we do talk about it seems a little icky to me when it comes up amongst friends.
yeah, I try not to mention it
I don't want
ever.
to be the guy like, on the podcast, we talked about that
Yeah, nope.
week.
Nope. I definitely try to avoid having that. But if you're listening, and listening is key because I know other people have had different whatever. I was like, comment, send Tim a text, send me a text, send when you see us say something, be like, hey, I have a question about that, or I resonated with that, or hey, I disagreed with that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Let this be a conversation that exists outside of the context of just me and Tim having this conversation. Let us make it to where, again, we're eliminating this kind of Tower of Babel kind of thing where we stay divided, and we have more of a Pentecost moment where we all come together and we're able to have a conversation about things and bring all of us back from different aspects of life to have really this kind of cohesive moment. And so I really do enjoy anytime that I ever hear comments. I know that there's love that's being shared out there, you know, and that has really meant a lot to me. And still to this day, it's hard putting yourself out on the internet saying things. I mean, it seems easy when you're just like, yeah, nobody's listening. But then, you know, when we actually do our audit of how many listeners we have, and we're sitting there and we're saying, yeah, we average about 100 listeners every week. What does that mean? And in the context of that, and how do we feel about that? And so getting love or even just questions, it means a lot. So I don't know if anybody's going to listen to the end of this episode to hear me rant about what it means to comment on shit, but
to it, I think it's great. But I'm going to also add, everyone, please remember that the tagline for this podcast is strong opinions weakly held. So even when we sound like we're on our soapbox and preaching, even well before doing this podcast, I was always someone who had a lot of opinions about things, but was also constantly doing what they call stress tests on my thoughts and be like, oh, is this really consistent? Is this hypocritical? How does this apply to this? And so it's no different on the show. There's a lot of things we say. It would probably sound like we're definitive and we know exactly what we're talking about. Understand, Colton and I both we're aware of who we are and who we're not. And so sometimes we might sound like we've got everything figured out, but we don't. So keep that in mind. A lot of things are said emphatically, but as they should be, but it's also not dogmatic or doctrinaire about how we're kind of viewing the world at this particular time or this particular week or how the moment strikes us. So, and I'm going to finish with, if you don't like Bulls on Parade, you can go to hell.
Nice.